Good morning. My name is Caitlin, and as some of you may know, I did update my name of the podcast. It may change again. I don't know for sure, but um, that's a bit of a hint as to what this episode's going to be about. First, I'm going to do a little bit of an update, and then I'm going to get to the big news. But the concert went relatively well. There was only a couple of points where they put the lights up so that you could see everybody, especially for like the different branches of the military. Like they wanted people to stand up if they served or um had loved ones who served or whatever. And so like I had to like cover my eyes because I didn't have my glasses on the rest of the time. I didn't have my glasses on because the rest of the time they didn't do like crazy lights in the crowd or anything. So overall, a relatively good sensory experience. That was just the only thing. And I did also have my earplugs in, but just on like the lowest setting. Um, it was really just for some of the horns can be a bit aggressive on my ears. Um, but overall, it was really nice. My partner unfortunately had a headache the whole time, and I felt really bad. I didn't have anything with me, like Tylenol, to give them. So they were struggling more than I was, which is uncommon. But they were just really worn out. They'd been working 12-hour shifts out in the cold all week, and yeah, sad. They felt better after sleeping, thankfully, but um and then the performance review went well. I mean, there was a couple of things that I can work on. Obviously, there's always things, in my opinion, no matter what it is that you do, there's always ways to improve and be more efficient and be just better at whatever it is that your goals are. So, overall, it went really well. Nothing like huge red flags or anything. So, I mean, I would be a little surprised if there was, but I'm also really hard on myself and can like work myself up and be like, oh no, I think they're gonna fire me because I forgot people's names or something. So, that's not how it's going. But they did suggest that I make a document on my computer and that like when every time I talk to somebody, if I like write down their name and a couple of things about them to try and remember their name because it is really, really hard for me to remember names. Like I'll remember things about you. I'll remember that I've seen you before, but I will forget your name specifically. So I know I've mentioned that before, but that's just particularly challenging struggle that I have. And it comes up a lot with this job because there are members and there's lots of them, and I really need to remember their names. So, um, yeah, that's kind of how the weekend like went. We didn't really do anything on Saturday. I just went back to my partner's mom's house, which is where they um like have all of their stuff in their room and stuff. So I went back over there and stayed over there for the night and just kind of, yeah, did nothing. I took a nap. It was great. I was so tired. Just trying to recover from the week. Every weekend is just recovery for me these days. So yeah. And we didn't really do much yesterday either. My partner went to go play airsoft because they really like doing that. And um, I've been trying to help them not feel so self-conscious about it because I'm like, look, it's a fun hobby. It's not only good for your brain in like mechanical ways when you're working on your airsoft rifle, but like it's also a physical activity when you go out and it's like varied physical activity because you're, running around or crouching down or like doing different things. Like it's good for you. And like I guess I get why maybe those feelings would happen, but I've just been trying to help them not feel self-conscious about having a hobby that they really enjoy, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Um, it's not hurting anybody, and it's, something that makes them happy. And so, anyways, a little tangent on not feeling self-conscious about your hobbies. Um, but yeah, it's been a weird weekend. I've been struggling a lot physically. My joints have just, and my occipital, which is like the muscle that goes right around the base of your skull, um, is just like everything in that area has been really acting up. Um, I've been getting headaches every day, which is an unfortunate reminder of how I used to live. I used to be that way all the time, and for a little while it got better because I was going to my Atlas orthogonal chiropractor specialist person. They can adjust my spine without surgery, and that would help for a bit, but like everything else, it doesn't last. So I haven't been in a while because I have to take off work in order to go because it's over an hour away, and it's just I haven't wanted to take off work for that because I've had other appointments, which after I get off of this call, I'm going to be making an appointment with an endocrinologist because I have hyperprolactinemia, which, or yeah, I've got too much prolactin, which apparently can be a sign that you don't have enough dopamine being produced in your brain, which is a very interesting thing to point out considering how my autism assessment diagnosis appointment went. Um, so that's what today's episode is about, and I'm gonna go into more detail on it. I have my official diagnosis for autism. So that's crazy. And I do want to go into some details about it, but I also want to say that I was not diagnosed with ADHD. However, she said there is one trait that I'm going to talk about that is more so associated with ADHD than autism, but I didn't meet some of the other criteria for ADHD. However, she said, I can't say with 100% certainty that you don't have ADHD. She just didn't want to overdiagnose when I didn't meet one of the like gold standard criterias for ADHD, which I was like, great, I agree with you. I don't want diagnoses that I don't really have, and I would rather look more into it, and maybe it is something else. Maybe it is this hyperprolactinemia. Maybe I do have less dopamine. Maybe it's, I don't know if that has to be an ADHD thing. Like, I don't know if your brain doesn't produce enough dopamine, does that mean you have ADHD? Like, I haven't done enough research on that. I will be, but I also am going to be making an appointment with an endocrinologist to make sure that that's actually what's going on. Um, because right now all I know is I have too much prolactin. My psychiatrist said that that could be indicative of not having enough dopamine. So I just got to figure out what's actually happening in my brain. So, diagnosis. I have mixed feelings on it. Like I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel. Thought I'd feel more excited. Like I am excited. but it's still like, it's still weird. I don't know. I'm still processing, which leads me to my IQ composite score. So, very interesting to me. I've always wanted to know what my IQ was. And I've done some like online ones, and it's always come up with like, high average, but like this really breaks it down, and it's, accurate, because it's like a professional evaluating. But um I just had the reason why, so my IQ full scale is 109, which is the very top of the average range. However, if you break it down, it ends up looking very different. So my verbal comprehension level was what is it? 122. So that is it's hilarious. Their names. That's the 93rd percentile, which means I scored above or at 93% of the average. So like of all the people, I scored above 93%, I guess. So that's high. That's what she said is like equates to innate intelligence. So that was interesting. I guess it makes sense why I have always felt I don't want to say I've always felt smarter than some people, but like I feel like I get to the most accurate conclusion most of the time, and I don't understand when other people don't. Like sometimes it's really hard for me to understand how somebody couldn't understand something that I understand because I feel like I'm not that smart. I don't know. I'm just like, why isn't this normal? Um, just thinking that my perspective is everyone's perspective, which is obviously not true. And I've definitely grown out of some of that thinking, but I still find that occasionally. The descriptive word that they use, though, for that ranking is superior. So I have superior verbal comprehension. I find that hilarious. I don't particularly like that word. I was telling my sister's boyfriend, and he was like, that just makes me think of like eugenics. So yeah, no, not a great word. I'm not going to be going around being like, I have superior innate intelligence. Like, absolutely not. Besides, it's kind of canceled out by some of the other things here. So, perceptual reasoning. That I also scored relatively high, 81st percentile. She said to focus on the percentile ranking because that's really what's important. So between 106 and 119 is the interval, I guess. So I scored a 113, which is considered high average. So that's also pretty good. And if those two were the only two that they were looking at, I look pretty darn intelligent. However, my working memory was a 92, which is the 30th percentile. So that's like on the lower end of average, the average range. Not low average, but the lower end of average. Um, so that's already like well, you kind of need a working memory in order for the other two to be beneficial. I think. I don't know. Um, it is very important to have a good working memory in order to use the information that your brain can comprehend. Just because I can comprehend things doesn't mean I know how to actually use them or remember them. But the most telling and like the biggest difference is my processing speed, which I've already said. She already told me, like, your processing speed's pretty slow. Like, and so I didn't know you could be really high in some and really low in other areas. Like, I had no idea how IQ worked. Um, but my processing speed was 81, which is the 10th percentile ranking, which is considered low average. So the discrepancy between my verbal comprehension slash innate intelligence, which is her wording, going from superior down to low average, like that's a huge discrepancy, which averages out to my full scale IQ being 109, which is just average, or 106, something. I think 106, that was the sum of the scores was 109. So 106, that's average. However, they also break down your general ability, which is essentially the first two, verbal comprehension and perceptual reasoning. That I scored a 121. So the difference between my full scale IQ and my general ability is quite different. Which explains a lot, explains why I always used to, and still do, describe my brain as an old computer. My software just hasn't been updated since 1999 when I was born. Like, it's just, I am slow. It doesn't mean I'm not smart. Like, I can, I can get it. It just takes me longer than everyone else. Um, However, apparently processing speed is more often shown in ADHD people. Not that it's not in both. However, that was like a big indicator for her to really look more into the ADHD side of things. So, she was like, could somebody possibly pass this one test that is like the gold standard for um ADHD testing and still have ADHD? Like, could they beat the test and still have ADHD? And she was like, I honestly don't know. Um, so I'm an enigma. Yeah, I don't know. But she said based off of all of the other, this was just IQ. There was let me see how many other tests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were 9 tests in total. The IQ was only one of those. So, plenty of the other things to look at. She said based on the other 8 things that she looked for, or looked into, or whatever, those tests, definitely indicated that I am in fact autistic. Level 1. Which I already knew. If I was going to be autistic at all, it was going to be level 1, which is low support needs. So, but she said I did well on some of the other tests that would have shown that I have ADHD. So, I'm interested to find out about my dopamine production and if that has anything to do with my processing speed or what. I don't know. I plan on figuring that out and then maybe going back to my evaluator and giving her that information. And I don't know what will happen with that. I don't want a diagnosis of something I don't have. I just want to understand every aspect of my brain so that I know how to help myself perform to the standard that I want to perform to, and to not just, I don't know. I don't want to burn myself out or feel inadequate. If I can understand my brain, then I don't have to, I can adjust my standards to how my brain works. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to have like these quantitative numbers. Um, so it looks like, I don't know, it looks like I don't have ADHD at the moment. So I'll look into that more. I'll definitely be updating on my endocrinology appointment and my dopamine levels and all of that good stuff. Um, it says, I wanted to read one other thing. It said the General Adaptive Composite offers a summary of Caitlin's performance across all skill areas. Caitlin obtained a GAC score of 89, which is low average range. This score indicates that Caitlin's current overall level of adaptive behaviors below age appropriate level, which is a high indicator of autism. So, um, there's also, so I'm at like the appropriate level of adaptive functioning for like general ability to like go shopping or doing things in the community. Um, but that my social domain standard was a low average, which suggests significant issues pertaining to engaging in social settings. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. Overall, this measure indicates moderate likelihood that Caitlin meets the criteria for autism spectrum disorder. So, yeah, a lot of things. Um, yeah, the consistency between her self-report, specific measures used in this evaluation, clinical review, a review of documents provided by Caitlin, and behavioral observations strongly indicate that Caitlin meets the criteria for autism spectrum disorder. Um, Yeah, it says while deficiencies in processing speed were apparent throughout this evaluation, there was no consistency in other areas related to ADHD. The concerns related to processing speed are valid and pose a challenge for Caitlin. However, they are better accounted for by ASD rather than ADHD due to not meeting the full criteria across the cognitive and self-reported measures used in the evaluation. So, yeah. Um, that's where I'm at. Um, so I've got the official diagnosis. I've got some treatment recommendations too, which I'll read off to you guys just because, this could be helpful for anybody who's looking at possibly their own diagnosis, self-diagnosis. If there's things that are in here that maybe would benefit you to try, or whatever. Individual therapy, areas to be addressed within this setting should include, but not limited to, identification of current specific behaviors that cause the most difficulty, psychoeducation to increase Caitlin's knowledge about ASD symptoms and the effective treatment. Caitlin is encouraged to process her feelings about the diagnosis, its meaning to her, and about her future goals. Learning and implementing social skills training. Work environment. A work setting that can simulate areas of strength while simultaneously supporting social and emotional behavioral difficulties would be beneficial. Considering accommodations in the work environment, such as modifications of work schedule or policy, physical changes to workspace, equipment or devices, adjustment of supervisory methods, and offer job coaching, which is interesting. Job coaching is not an option where I work because there's like the whole 7 people here. I've done what I can to modify my own stuff to the setting. Physical things can't really be changed much about the workplace. The schedule, that's the one thing that I may end up having to go to them with, because I keep talking about it, but I have a really hard time keeping up with this schedule. If I could have Wednesdays off, that would be fantastic. I know that it's not ideal for them, but at what point is it going to keep me from being able to work here? Am I going to quit because I burnt out? Am I going to end up really sick again? I have to be careful. I know that I am doing as much as I possibly can right now, and if I push myself any further, I'm not going to be able to do it. So we'll see how it goes. It is definitely something to think about. And then long-term monitoring. It is recommended that reevaluation occurs to assess cognitive and social emotional functioning after treatment for symptoms, 3 to 5 years, particularly if the recommended interventions have not helped decrease symptoms or if symptoms have worsened. So that's interesting to me, just because at first I was like, well, reevaluation, does that mean I could grow out of it? Like, does that mean that could I lose my diagnosis in 5 years if I were to somehow learn more about it? I don't know. I'm just like, that made me a little uneasy. But I did some research into it, and it's very unlikely. The only people who really have been shown to possibly grow out of what seems like autism, which, as it's very unlikely. People who are autistic, it's genetic. It doesn't go away. You have it your whole life. It can change, but it doesn't go away. The only people who have even possibly been what in my opinion would be misdiagnosed and then reevaluated later in life have been people under the age of 2 that were diagnosed with autism. So, in my opinion, that means that I'm not growing out of this. It's not going away. If I get reevaluated in 5 years, it's just to see if those measures that I'm taking today and through the next 5 years are helping me, or if I'm struggling worse, if there's possibly other accommodations that need to be made or whatever. So I don't know. I'm definitely going to keep in contact with them over the years and try to, it's kind of expensive and I really don't want to have to go through this process all over again, but I'll ask more questions. I have a couple of funny anecdotes too. One of which, so I used to, I mean, I still do, but I don't know. I haven't watched it recently. I used to be like really into Doctor Who, like obsessively, so to where like I'd get like for like a couple of years, everything that I would get for my birthday or Christmas was Doctor Who themed. And my sister's boyfriend was saying that when he met me, he was like, "Oh, this is the first non-autistic person that I know that likes a Doctor Who." And well, he's like, "Now I'm back to none." So that was funny. Um, as far as people accepting it thus far, it's actually been pretty good. I told a couple of my coworkers as soon as it happened because I couldn't not say anything. Like I was at work when I took the virtual appointment, um, and they were happy for me to have answers, and I talked a little bit about what that means for me, and but I'd already kind of been prepping everybody. Like, I've been talking about this for a while because I didn't want it to come as a shock to anyone. I wanted to educate people before I had the diagnosis, because I really felt I was going to get it. Like, I really felt that that was what's going on, and I was right. But I didn't want anyone to have, like, at least not any extreme misconceptions of what autism is. So, I've been trying to educate pretty much everybody as I go along the process. And so that was good. I told one of my coworkers who said that he thought that he was on the spectrum as well, and I was like, maybe you should go get evaluated, like they're local relatively, only like 15, 20 minutes away, and I'm pretty sure they have $500 that they could spare on an evaluation if they really wanted to have the answers. So, um, yeah, I don't know if they will, but I'll definitely ask if they want that information. I can give them the information of the clinic that I went to and the person that I saw, and yeah, I don't know. It's my partner actually may have changed their mind and wants to get evaluated. I was like, it's be a Christmas present. I could give you $500 to go see the evaluator. Not that they have more money than I do. It's not that they don't have the money to go. But I think it would be really interesting to know, like, especially the IQ breakdown. That was so enlightening for me. Um, Again, still processing it. Shocker. Yeah. I feel like I just need a t-shirt with like the loading symbol. Cause like that's basically it's basically me all the time. Um which explains why I buffer so much on these podcast episodes. There's lots of pauses and I have to think of what I'm saying because it just takes me a lot longer than most people to buffer. And I got a lot of information in my noggin, and it's hard for me to process it and sometimes recall it because my working memory is also not up to par with the rest of my intelligence. So it's like, it makes sense. It makes sense why I get so frustrated because it's like I know the answers, but I don't know how to communicate it. And so, yeah. Um, I did talk with my dad a little bit about like what career options would be maybe more fitting to the way my brain works. And we kind of settled on education. Not necessarily in a traditional school environment, but that because I can kind of break things down and communicate things slowly, and like that's just how I work, and I'm patient and um not I don't really have an ego, like I'm not really intimidating for people to ask questions to. It can be, in a educational setting, it can be very structured. Your social interactions very clearly laid out, guidelines, structure, all of that. So maybe that would be a good option, especially for something like if it was on a specific topic that I'm really interested in. I can learn a lot about it and then share that information. I mean, I love sharing information, so maybe that would be, oh, the lights turning off again. But maybe that would be a good option for me. Um, I mean, I have always wanted to teach people like how to bake and how to, you know, cook and other things like that. But like there's just not a lot of money to be made in that area, and I also just don't know how to start. Like, how would I even do that? I don't have a kitchen that people can like come into and learn, and I don't, this is my first time recording actively, so I don't know how to even do video versions of things. Also, I would really rather it be like a Zoom than a video because then I could answer people's questions as they have them. So maybe I'll look into doing that. Um, my only problem with going to culinary school is that I'm not fast enough. I knew that before I had this diagnosis. Like, I'm just not fast enough. Doesn't mean I can't do it. It's just I can't perform to that level. I'm slow. And now I know for sure and why. But I think that it's probably better for me to maybe do. I know that I have an online culinary school option. That would be awesome. I um I just really would like to be able to teach people things that I enjoy, that I find interesting, and so maybe that would be a good option for me. I've definitely struggled with what do I want to do with my life, where makes sense for me, who am I, what purpose do I want to have, do I want to fulfill. I'm not ever going to be happy with just making money for the sake of making money. I can't, um, I just can't force myself to do something for a paycheck. It'll never work. Oh, another funny thing in my report, she said I have a flat affect. So basically, my vocal tonation slash facial expressions and all of those things were flat, which is also another um, indicator of autism. So I thought that was hilarious. I really wasn't sure if I did or not. Like I thought maybe, I don't know. I thought, well, I have some fluctuation in my vocal tonation. I do make different facial expressions, but just not to the normal extent, I guess. I don't know. I thought that was interesting because that was her observation, not anything that I wasn't trying to do anything differently. So that was just her observation of me. But yeah, if you have any questions, if you want to know who I went to see, if you're local and you're looking for an assessment, um, if you want any more information, I know I didn't like go into super, super detailed stuff, but like I feel like I did a good job of pointing out the details that I really wanted to, but like if you have any questions, if you want to know what some of the tests were like, I mean, I know I mentioned some of them in a previous episode, but if my working memory serves, which we'll see, I could definitely give you what information I have on what those tests are like and yeah, just what the process is like. If you want to talk about it, I'm more than happy to help or just maybe, give some guidance on how to go about getting your assessment. I would definitely recommend taking all of the assessments on Embrace Autism site first before getting like, before going through the painstaking process. Because while those aren't standardized tests, they were really helpful for me to understand my own brain better, and kind of get a perspective on myself because I needed that information about myself before going into like the real deal. So if you're curious at all, think that you might have autism, like I'm planning on having my partner do all of these first because I really think that it helps kind of open up your mind to, oh, do I do this thing? Or do I not do that thing? Or is this actually hard for me? Or have I been masking this? Like, just kind of helping unpack some stuff because if you're an adult, you've probably been masking for a long time and you might not even realize all the stuff that you're masking. So, definitely recommend doing that. Not instead of, I mean, obviously, if you have no way of getting an assessment or if it's too expensive or if you can't find a place, like I get it. I totally understand. And within the autism community, we are accepting of self-diagnosis. So if you're just looking to find a community and there's definitely steps that can be made before getting a diagnosis. So not saying that, you know, it's an end all be all, like you have to. But I think it's really helpful, especially if you want any sort of accommodations with work, or school, if you're still in school. I would definitely try to find a place. Again, I can give you the information for my evaluator, but it's local to Arlington. You only have to come for 2 in person. So if you're coming from out of town, that is a possibility of trying to schedule those either relatively close together or just like coming in for those 2 specific ones. I don't know if they could make a longer appointment for you to just come once. But there are other places. I know of a few, but I know that they're really hard to get into and it does take a long time. So if just to be prepared that it's not going to be a quick process. It's going to take a few months and if not longer. And yeah, I hope that this has been insightful and entertaining maybe in some way. I don't know if I'm entertaining at all. Um, but that's how my assessment went. And definitely going to still be processing for a while. But I'll keep updating and I feel like I can speak maybe a little bit more confidently now that I have my diagnosis, but I'm still processing it. It's still like, I thought that all of the doubts would go away when I got my diagnosis, but they haven't. Like, I don't know, I'm still like, really? Like, are you sure? I don't know. I'm definitely glad that I got it. I, just need to still unpack stuff. So, thanks for joining me on my journey of unpacking all of this. And, I hope that you have a good day and that you'll remember that you are enough.